Lesson 64 is about classifying quadrilaterals, and they have those quadrilaterals with the shape, characteristic, and name on page 341, and you'll want to memorize those. Now, I know there's been several things you've had to memorize in the last few lessons, but it's really important that you do this. Pause the CD, take a few minutes, and memorize those. No sides parallel, that's a trapezium. One pair of parallel sides, that's a trapezoid. Two pairs of parallel sides, that's a parallelogram. A parallelogram with equal sides is a rhombus. A parallelogram with right angles is a rectangle. And a rectangle with equal sides is a square. So pause the CD. What I would do is just cover up the characteristic and name part and look at the different shapes and figure out the characteristic and name, uncover them, see if you got it right, cover it back up, and just go down this until you get them all. Let's do some practice problems. What I want you to do is tell me if these statements are true or false. A, all trapezoids are rectangles. Well, let's just think about that. Trapezoids have one pair of parallel sides. Rectangles, those have two pairs. They're a parallelogram, right? With sides that are right angled to each other. So no trapezoids can be rectangles, so that answer would be false. We'll just put an F for false. Let's read B. The statement says that all rhombuses are squares. True or false? Well, let's just think about it. Rhombuses, those are parallelograms with equal sides. Squares are parallelograms with equal sides, but squares, the sides are perpendicular to each other. So all rhombuses are not squares, so that would be false. Rhombuses don't have to have their sides perpendicular to each other. Look at C. All squares are rhombuses. Now that would be true, because by definition a rhombus is a parallelogram with equal sides. All squares are parallelograms with equal sides. They're just a little more complex than a rhombus. They have one extra thing. Their sides have to be perpendicular to each other. But they do satisfy all the statements that make a rhombus a rhombus. They're a parallelogram with equal length sides. So that would be a true statement. Let's do one more. All squares are rectangles. Well, let's just think about it. A rectangle, that's a parallelogram with right angles. Squares are parallelograms with right angles. Squares are just a special kind of rectangle that has all the sides the same length. So that would be true. All squares are rectangles. They're all parallelograms with sides at right angles to each other. So make sure you memorize that chart on page 341. Okay, well that's all for lesson 64.